Hail deputies. Well, I figured out how to save the game. You press F6 to save. And I believe that F7 is the key to load it, although I haven't pressed that button yet. So I'm not sure. And I...
Hi, Stanley. Just wanted to leave you a message to let you know there's a few things I need you to pick up on your way home from work today. We need milk, cereal, dish soap, spaghetti, get a thing of sugar, some bread, and coffee beans, whichever ones you like. I'll give you a call if there's anything I forgot. Thanks, sweetie. See you tonight.
Okay. So what I did was because the first time it didn't save, so I played it again to get up to the point where my last video left off. And who partied? Is that what the mug says? So evidently I can shut off. It says awaiting input. Input received. Oh, I can crouch. What do you know? I wish I could pick up the chair and move it. I can't do anything else with that.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Loading, loading, loading.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
Well, we'll find out.
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Loading, 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 loading.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plugging the eyeball.
I can't move.
So he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly. And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish?
Yes, what indeed?
When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Oh, and is this heaven then? Because it's all white? Some beautiful nature paintings. Or are they photographs? Because there's a difference between a photograph and a painting. Stanley's computer. It's a museum of Stanleyness. Office layout. This blueprint shows the office from the beginning of the game. The path from Stanley's office to the two doors was the first part of the game that was built. Sections have been added and altered throughout development. Though the core layout remains almost identical to the first iteration. The basing of this opening section was important to get right. This corridor has been moved and altered to make sure the player reaches the 2 doors in a good time. Stanley's computer. Alright. Filing cabinets. Office computers. Employee database. I can't get up there. I cannot jump. The office. Button sounds. A selection of the sounds used throughout the game when buttons are pressed. Each sound is a mix of keyboard stroke and a synthesized tone. The Stanley Parable credits written and directed by Davey Reedon and William Pugh. The impeccable Kevin Brighting is narrator. It is the Museum of Stanley. The office. An early version of the maintenance room. Office clock. Scenes from the development of the boss's office. So I guess this was the first one. Or maybe this was the first one. And then this was the second one. And this was the third one. Perhaps. Seems to make sense. There's no run. There's no jump. The point of the Stanley Parable HD remix is to lose. These are screenshots of the Stanley Parable HD remix. More endings, fewer endings, more narrators, fewer narrators, more Stanley, less Stanley. The point of the Stanley Parable HD remix is to win. Win. The point of the Stanley Parable HD remix is to lose. Am I going crazy? Maybe it isn't the same image. Was that clock there before? I don't remember. How do I go back? Can you check for me? Warzone. Early in development, we designed an ending where Stanley would end up on a battlefield fighting aliens. The action game would become sentient and would wage war against the narrator. We realized shortly after starting to build it was far too jokey and on the nose for the tone of the game. Plus, some people interpreted it as making fun of people who like shooters, which was not our intention. Alien base. Narrator emails. After the second trailer we sent out, we asked people to email the narrator for questions. While we had initially planned to use those in further promotional materials, we never found the perfect use for them. Here are a selection of those emails. From Dink Dunk, subject gay, are you gay? From Ben Steiger, subject gloves. How do you tie with boxing gloves on? Alright, silly. An early version of the lounge. From left to right, the evolution of Stanley's office over time. First was created in November of 2011, the second in March of 2012, and the third in February of 2013. Game design mock-up. This is the level that William, the level designer, sent Davey, the writer, as a kind of audition piece. The strength of this level got William hired to design the full game. Though much of the environment has changed, basic layout from this mock-up is still in the game. Countdown room, an early version of the countdown room. I don't remember a countdown room. This is the freedom ending as it existed in beta. One of the deaths from an early version of the countdown ending. I didn't see the countdown ending. That means I have more game to play, right? For a long time, we had an ending that only ended when the player restarted from the escape menu. Unfortunately, very few players realized this was what they were supposed to do, which was frustrating for everyone. Yeah, like that one area where there was nothing I could do. Zending. This screenshot depicts an early version of the ending note as the Zending, which was eventually cut and merged with another part of the game. The Zending went through many iterations. This room represents the fourth version of the ending, and we thought it was complete, but decided to abandon and change it again shortly before launch. These levers were originally a part of the ending. The player would pull a lever and the narrator would describe what color lever they had pulled. This was the very first incarnation of the freedom ending in the game's alpha. Alright, let's go back up here. Look, okay, I've been here. I'm getting confused. Where have I been and where have I not been? Trailers. We ran 4 major teaser trailers over the course of the game's development, each meant to convey something about the spirit of the game. This is the first one released in May of 2012. It features a series of broken rooms and the voice of the narrator informing viewers that he is preparing a new version of the Stanley Parable. Meeting room. Maintenance layout. The flow of hallways following the first 2 doors was important to get right, since players will replay them so many times. We discussed a number of designs, but ultimately it was the simplest version that won out. The apartment timer. In a previous version of the choice leading to the apartment ending, the timer will give you 15 seconds to pick up the phone. Not picking up the phone would lead to a different ending. The cargo lift was always intended to offer the choice of staying on or jumping to a different path. However, after this early version, we decided we also wanted the option of the player falling to their death. The cargo lift. This second version is functionally the same as what's in the final game, but we wanted it to look more like a place where cargo was actually stored. Okay. The office. Exit. I'm not ready for the exit yet. There's an area down here I haven't been to. Employee lounge. an early version of the underground portion of the game.
Kind of thing you pick up on intuitively if you have one of those men that don't understand good or bad, all this button pushing. But of course, you'll probably spend the next hour trying to
Narration outtakes. Kevin Briding, the voice of the narrator, recorded dialogue for the entire game roughly 3 separate times over the 2 years of development. These are clips from early takes that were not used in the final game.
Oh, I don't know. How about they're throwing a surprise party for him for all his button?
Alright. Monitor room elevator. For a time, the elevator in the monitor room could go up or down with freedom above and countdown below. We abandoned this when players found it too difficult to remember what was up and what was down and placed the two endings together instead. I think I am done with the museum. So I will go to the exit.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free.
Yeah. Oh, so is this the lever room?
Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and be the only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let time...
And a black screen. Now what? I can't do anything. Since the game is now paused. I can't do anything. I think that's game over. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this. I think that's probably the last that I'm going to play of it. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give me a thumbs up, comment below, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye.